My sister, Leela, has never known what it means to worry about tomorrow. She wakes up each day, expecting the world to bend for her, to give her what she wants, while I am the one who breaks myself to keep that world spinning for her. This morning, I stand in the doorway, watching her sleep on the couch, her phone still clutched in her hand, the screen lighting up her pretty face. With a glow of Instagram reels, she fell asleep watching. Her braids are freshly done, lashes still perfect even in sleep, lips curled into a small smile. She looks so peaceful, so unbothered, while my alarm had dragged me out of sleep before the sun even thought to rise. I don't hate her, at least I don't think I do. I pull the thin blanket over her, though she'll kick it off within minutes, and I walk quietly into the kitchen. I fill the kettle with water, setting it on the stove, the gas flame flickering under the pot. As the water slowly begins to heat, I reach into the bread bin, pulling out the last 2 loaves for Mama and Leela. For myself, I take the leftover piece from yesterday, hard at the edges but still edible. I don't need much. The kettle whistles softly, steam clouding the window, as I pour the hot water over tea bags in mugs that are chipped at the edges. I place them carefully on a tray with the bread, the aroma of the tea momentarily comforting. I glance at the small clock on the wall, then quickly scribble a note. Tea and bread on the table, have a good day, Ella. I place it where Mama will see it. Take one last look at the living room, where my sister now stretches in her sleep, and step out into the cold morning. The dawn air is sharp, nipping at my skin as I walk to the bus stop. My bag feels heavy on my back, not because of its weight, but because of what it represents. My entire life dedicated to others. Each step feels like a question. When will it be my turn? On the bus, I press my forehead against the window, letting the vibration rattle the exhaustion from my bones. I watch the city blink awake. Street vendors setting up, mothers dragging sleepy children by the hand, the smell of akara and roasted corn filling the air. I arrive at the restaurant before anyone else, unlocking the doors, sweeping the floor, and wiping down the tables. When the owner arrives, she barely glances at me. Ella, make sure you clean the storeroom today, she says, dropping her bag on the counter. Yes, Ma, I reply, pulling my apron tighter around my waist. The day is a blur of washing, chopping, scrubbing. My arms ache as I lift heavy pots, steam sticking my clothes to my skin. By noon, I steal a moment to eat the leftover bread, swallowing it with water, before rushing to the small shop where I work my second job, stocking shelves and handling customers with a tired smile, while restocking powdered milk on the shelf. My phone buzzes. I wipe my hands before checking it. Mama, send 10K now. Leela needs it for her school excursion. My throat tightens. I open my banking app, seeing the balance I've been carefully building to rent a small space for my bakery, the bakery that lives in my dreams, the one thing I want for myself. But I close my eyes, exhaling as I transfer the money. Family, I remind myself, slipping the phone back into my pocket. When I return home after 9 p.m., I find Mama on the sofa, laughing at a comedy show, while Leela dances around in her new sneakers, the music blasting from her phone. Ella, you're back, Mama says without looking at me. Ella, can you braid my hair tomorrow before you leave for work? Leela asks, grinning. Okay, I reply, forcing a smile. In the kitchen, I eat cold rice alone, the noise from the living room washing over me like a wave I can't escape. I scrub the plate clean, dry my hands, and walk into my small room, shutting the door gently. I pull out my notebook, flipping to the page titled Bakery Dream. I look at the neat list of things I need. A small oven, a table, flour, sugar, butter, rent for a shop space. I flip back to today's expenses and see the 10K I sent. Another slash in the fragile plan I'm trying to hold together. I close the book, turn off the light, and lay down on my thin mattress, staring at the cracked ceiling as the laughter from Mama and Leela drifts into the room. Family, I whisper into the darkness, clutching the pillow to my chest, as tears slip quietly onto the sheet. I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this for them. But in the quiet, another voice whispers back. When will they ever do anything for you? I first noticed the money was missing on a Thursday evening. I had just returned home after a long day, my arms aching from lifting crates, my legs numb from standing all day. I dropped onto my mattress, letting out a shaky breath before reaching for my small battered purse, where I kept my savings booklet, wrapped in a plastic bag. It was my ritual, counting every naira before I slept, reminding myself why I woke up before dawn and came back home after dark. It was my hope, the one thing that made the pain worth it. I opened the booklet, flipping to the page where my bakery savings were recorded. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was reading it wrong. I counted again. No. Half of it was gone. My heart began to pound so hard, I thought it would burst. My palms went clammy, my breath quickening as I flipped through the booklet, searching for answers that weren't there. Where was the money? I had been careful. Guarding every naira like it was my lifeline. I remembered every deposit, every sacrifice, skipping meals, walking instead of taking the bus, working overtime, all for this dream. Tears welled up in my eyes as I clutched the booklet to my chest. I felt a scream rising in my throat, but I swallowed it down. Screaming would change nothing. I stood, my legs trembling as I stepped out of my room. The house was filled with the sound of Mama's laughter as she watched her TV show. Leela was lounging on the floor, painting her nails a bright pink, chatting with a friend on her phone. Where's the money? I blurted, my voice shaking. They both looked up, startled. What money? Mama's eyebrows knit together, her lips pressing into a thin line. My savings, half of it is gone, I said, holding up the booklet, the pages fluttering with my shaking hands. Mama turned back to the TV. I borrowed it. The words were so casual, so dismissive, that it took me a moment to process them. You borrowed it, I echoed, my voice barely above a whisper. Mama sighed, picking up the remote to lower the volume. Leela needed money for her school fees, and I needed to pay some debts. You know how things are. I looked at Leela, who was now avoiding my gaze, her freshly painted nails glinting under the light. Her phone buzzed, and she quickly picked it up, turning away from me as she whispered into it. I felt the walls closing in around me, the air thick and suffocating. You took everything I've been saving without telling me, I asked, my voice rising despite the lump in my throat. Mama finally looked at me, her eyes hard. Don't raise your voice at me. Ella, we are family, you're working. You will get it back, don't be selfish. Selfish. That word cut through me like a blade. Me, selfish. All I had done was give. I had given my time, my dreams, my energy, my entire life for this family. And now the only thing I was saving for myself was taken away. And I was being called selfish. Leela's laughter, soft and careless, floated through the room as she giggled into her phone, her gold bracelet catching the light as she tucked a braid behind her ear. It hit me then, the bracelet, the new clothes, the hair appointments, the expensive creams on the bathroom shelf, things I couldn't afford, things I never questioned because I thought Mama had found a way to provide them for Leela. But it was my money. I was saving for my bakery, I whispered, tears streaming down my cheeks. Mama rolled her eyes, turning the volume back up on the TV. You and that bakery dream. There will be time for dreams later. Right now, your family needs you. Leela hung up her call, finally looking at me with her big, innocent eyes. You'll make the money back, Ella, you always do. The room felt like it was spinning. I stumbled back into my room, closing the door behind me, pressing my back against it as I slid to the floor. My chest heaved with silent sobs, the weight of betrayal crushing me. I wanted to scream, to break something, to disappear, but I couldn't. Because tomorrow, the alarm would ring at 4:30 a.m. And I would get up and I would go to work. Because that was what I did. I wiped my tears, forcing myself to breathe as I opened the notebook again, staring at the numbers, the neat rows now mocking me. Family, I thought bitterly. Was it really family when they took everything from you without asking? When they demanded your sacrifices without gratitude? When they never once thought about what you wanted? I closed the notebook, clutching it to my chest as I curled up on the thin mattress, the cold seeping into my bones. I stared into the darkness, a single thought echoing in my mind. They will never stop taking from me until there's nothing left. And for the first time, as I closed my eyes, I wondered, what if I stopped giving? I woke up the next morning to the sharp screech of my alarm. My body felt heavy, but I forced myself to sit up, clutching the blanket to my chest, as if it could protect me from the cold truth that had settled in the room overnight. They took my money. Mama and Leela didn't even think twice before using what wasn't theirs, what I had painfully saved for years, what I had whispered prayers over every night before I fell asleep. Clutching the notebook to my chest, dreaming of flour on my hands, and the warm scent of bread, in a shop that would finally be mine. They didn't care. Family. The word felt poisonous on my tongue as I swung my legs over the edge of the bed and stood, wincing at the soreness in my feet. I quickly washed, pulled on my work uniform, and tied my hair into a bun before stepping into the living room. Mama was seated, humming as she ate bread and sipped her tea. Leela was on the floor with her phone, legs stretched out, her laughter soft as she scrolled through videos. She had fresh braids again, long and neat, beads clacking softly whenever she moved. Ella, Mama said without looking up. Make sure you buy salt on your way back today. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. I left for work without breakfast, the piece of bread from yesterday still wrapped in my bag. I couldn't bring myself to eat. My stomach felt tight, the thought of food making me nauseous. On the bus, I pressed my forehead against the glass, watching the city blur past, people rushing to jobs, school children dragging backpacks behind them, traders setting up shops. Everyone was moving, living, surviving. I wondered if they were also carrying betrayal in their chests as I was, wondering how they were still able to breathe. At the restaurant, I worked mechanically, scrubbing pots, peeling yams, cleaning counters, while the owner barked orders, her sharp voice blending with the clang of pots and the hiss of oil in the fryer. My phone buzzed around noon, as I was washing a pile of plates. I dried my hands and picked it up, seeing a message from Leela. Can you send 5K for transport? I have a class to attend. Glass. She was supposed to be in her second year at the Polytechnic, studying business administration. I was the one paying for her fees, buying her books, sending money whenever she needed it. Something inside me snapped. I left the sink, drying my hands on my apron, and stepped outside to call her. She answered on the first ring, her voice soft and sweet. Ella, hi. Leela, which class do you need transport for? I asked, keeping my voice steady. There was a pause on the line, the soft shuffle of her moving around. I have to submit an assignment today, and I need to see my lecturer. Which lecturer? I pressed. Another pause. Ella, why are you questioning me like this? Don't you trust me? Answer me, Leela, are you even in school? My voice was shaking now. Silence. Leela. She sighed, and when she spoke, her voice was sharp, nothing like the sweet baby sister I had known. It's not your business, Ella. Not my business, I echoed, feeling the world tilt under me. I've been paying your fees, sending you money, going hungry so you can have everything, and it's not my business. Don't make this a big deal, she snapped. You always act like a saint, but you're just bitter because your life is boring. The call ended before I could say another word. I stood there, the phone pressed to my ear, the busy sounds of the street around me, the sun suddenly too hot, the air too thick to breathe. Boring. That was what she thought of me. All the nights I stayed up, all the jobs I took, all the money I sent, all the times I prayed for her, hoped for her, fought for her, it was nothing, I was nothing. I walked back into the restaurant, picking up the plates, scrubbing them with shaking hands. I could barely see the soap suds through the tears in my eyes, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. After work, I didn't go home immediately. I sat at the bus stop, watching people rush past, the sky turning orange as the sun set. I didn't know how long I sat there, clutching my bag to my chest, trying to keep the sobs down. I finally stood and walked home, my steps heavy, my chest hollow. When I entered the house, Mama was watching TV, the laughter from the show echoing in the room. Leela was in the corner, braiding her hair again, her eyes flicking up to meet mine before looking away. I walked past them, heading straight to my room, locking the door behind me. I pulled out my notebook, flipping to the bakery dream page. The numbers now a painful reminder of everything I had lost, of everything they had taken without remorse. I traced the words with my finger, my tears dropping onto the page, smudging the ink. I'm not bitter, I thought, wiping my tears with the back of my hand. I'm tired. Tired of giving, tired of sacrificing, tired of living for people who only saw me as a tool to get what they wanted. As I lay down that night, I stared at the ceiling, the cracks forming patterns I had memorized over the years. And for the first time, I allowed myself to think it. Maybe it's time to live for me. I didn't talk to Leela the next morning. I left for work without saying goodbye, clutching my bag tighter as I stepped into the cold air. The streets felt different, as if I was seeing them clearly for the first time. Every mother dragging a child to school, every hawker calling for customers, every tired worker yawning into dawn. It all felt like a mirror of me. Except today, I felt something cracking open inside. During my lunch break, I went to the market to buy salt, as Mama had demanded. As I walked back, I passed by a small bookshop, and something inside pulled me in. I ended up buying a small padlock. That evening, after serving Mama and Leela dinner, I went into my room and locked my door for the first time since we moved into that house. Later that night, unable to sleep, I found myself rummaging through the old wooden chest Papa had left behind. The hinges creaked as I lifted the lid, the smell of old clothes and dust hitting me. I dug through folded wrappers, a cracked radio, and an old Bible with pages turning yellow. The Bible slipped from my hands, and an envelope fell out, landing softly on the floor. My heart beat faster as I picked it up. It was addressed to me, in Papa's handwriting. Hands trembling, I opened it. To my daughter Ella. This house is yours. It is your security. Your protection when I am gone. Never let it go. Love, Papa. I read the words over and over, my tears dripping onto the paper. Smudging the ink, the house was mine. All this time, while I had been working like a slave, sending every naira home, letting Mama control everything, the house was mine. I pressed the letter to my chest, sitting on the floor, as the weight of everything settled on me. Mama never told me. She had been planning to sell the house, using the money for her debts, for Leela's whims, for herself. A knock sounded on my door, pulling me from my thoughts. Ella, come out. Why have you locked this door? Mama's voice was sharp. I'm resting, Mama, I managed to say, forcing my voice to stay calm. Open this door now, she snapped. I didn't move. I held the letter tighter, my tears drying on my cheeks, as something inside me hardened. I heard her footsteps walk away, her voice low, as she complained to Leela. I could hear Leela's soft laughter, and I realized how blind I had been. They would never change. They would take and take, until I had nothing left. I looked at the letter one more time, before hiding it under my pillow. Tomorrow, I will go to a lawyer, I decided. Tomorrow, I will start fighting for myself. And for the first time in a long time, as I lay on my bed in the dark, I felt something like hope burning quietly in my chest. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. I dressed quietly, folding Papa's letter carefully and tucking it inside my bra. Close to my heart, I glanced at the cracked mirror, seeing a different version of myself, tired. Yes, but there was a new sharpness in my eyes, a small flame that refused to die. I stepped into the living room to find Mama sipping tea, while Leela scrolled through her phone. Ella, you're early, Mama said, not looking up. We need to talk, I said, my voice steady. Mama's eyes lifted slowly, narrowing. About what? I pulled out the letter and placed it on the table. Papa left the house to me, I said, my hands trembling but my voice calm. This house is mine. The silence that filled the room was thick. Leela looked up from her phone, her eyes darting between Mama and me. Mama's lips pressed into a thin, hard line. She picked up the letter, reading it slowly, her eyes scanning each word. Then she set it down carefully and looked at me, her face expressionless. And so, she said finally, leaning back in her chair. I blinked, and so you can't sell it. You can't use it to pay your debts. You can't take everything from me anymore. For a moment, I saw something flash in Mama's eyes, fear, maybe, or guilt. But it was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by cold anger. Ella, everything you have is because of me. She hissed, I carried you for 9 months. I fed you, I raised you. You owe me your life. I've been paying for everything in this house for years. I shot back, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. I've sacrificed everything for you and Leela. My dreams, my money, my life. And you've taken it all without a word of thanks. Leela slammed her phone down, her face twisted in annoyance. Why are you making this a big deal, Ella? It's just a house. I turned to her, my hands clenching. Just a house. It's the only thing Papa left for me. It's my security, my future. The only thing I have after everything I've given you. You're being selfish, Leela spat, rolling her eyes. You always think you're better than us because you work like a donkey. Her words sliced through me, but I didn't let them show on my face. If protecting myself makes me selfish, then fine, I said, my voice low and clear. Mama stood suddenly, slamming her hand on the table, making the cups rattle. You will not take this house from me. Ella, she shouted, her face red with anger. I will not let you disgrace me in this community. I will not let you think you can stand above me. I took a step back, my heart pounding, but I didn't look away. I'm not trying to stand above you. Mama, I'm trying to survive. The room was silent, except for the ticking clock on the wall. Mama's chest heaved as she glared at me, her hands shaking. I turned and walked back to my room, locking the door behind me, as my tears fell silently. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, clutching Papa's letter to my chest, my mind racing. They wouldn't stop, and for the first time, I knew I would have to fight them, even if it meant fighting the only family I had ever known. The house felt colder after that confrontation. Mama didn't speak to me for days, only casting sharp glances when I passed by. Leela avoided me, whispering on the phone with her friends, throwing me dirty looks when she thought I wasn't watching. I continued going to work, but I felt the heaviness in my chest each day. I could no longer pretend things were normal. One evening, as I was returning home from the shop, I noticed a man standing across the street. Watching the compound, I slowed down, clutching my bag tighter, but he didn't move. Just stood there, arms folded, staring. I quickly entered the house, locking the door behind me. Mama, did you see that man outside? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She didn't even look up from the TV. What man? He was standing there, watching the house, I insisted. Mama shrugged. You're seeing things. Maybe, if you focused on your family instead of causing problems, you'd have peace. I wanted to scream. That night, I sat on my bed, Papa's letter in my hand, reading it over and over, reminding myself that I had the right to protect what was mine. Suddenly, I heard Leela's voice outside my door. Ella, she called, her voice soft. Can we talk? I hesitated before opening the door a crack. She slipped in, shutting the door behind her, her eyes looking wet, as if she had been crying. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to say those things the other day. I watched her carefully. Then why did you? She sank onto the edge of my bed, wiping her eyes. Mama is under pressure. She owes people money, Ella. She's scared. That's not my fault, I replied, though my heart softened at her tears. I know, Leela said, looking down. I don't want us to fight. You're my sister. She reached out to hold my hand, and for a moment, I let her, hoping that maybe, just maybe, she meant it. Please, Ella, she whispered, looking up at me with those soft brown eyes. Don't take the house away from Mama. The words made my stomach drop. I pulled my hand away. Leela, I'm not taking the house from her. I'm protecting it. It's the only thing Papa left for me. She sighed, standing up, her softness gone as quickly as it came. Then don't say I didn't try. She left the room, leaving the air cold and heavy behind her. The next day, as I closed the shop after work, I noticed the same man waiting across the street again. This time he crossed the road, blocking my path. You're Ella, right? He asked, his breath smelling of cigarettes. I stepped back. Who are you? Just a friend of your mother, he said, smirking. She says you're making life difficult for her. My heart pounded, but I kept my voice steady. Tell her I won't be intimidated. His smile widened. Be careful, Ella, accidents happen. I pushed past him, my legs shaking as I hurried home, locking the door and leaning against it, gasping for air. I rushed into my room, locking the door, pressing my back against it. They're trying to scare me, I realized, tears stinging my eyes. But as I wiped them away, a new fire burned in my chest. I won't let them. After that night, I started sleeping with Papa's letter under my pillow. Every sound in the compound made me sit up in the dark, heart pounding, afraid the door would burst open, afraid I would see that man's smirk in the shadows of my room. But fear was no longer enough to stop me. I started hiding small amounts of money in the lining of my bag, the hem of an old wrapper, under my mattress. It wasn't much, but it was all I could take without Mama noticing. During lunch breaks, I began visiting small law firms around the market, asking questions in a low voice, explaining that I had a letter proving the house was mine, and that I needed to protect it. Most lawyers brushed me off, but one woman, with soft eyes and a firm voice, listened. Bring the letter tomorrow, she said, handing me her card. We can start from there. I tucked the card into my bra, close to Papa's letter, carrying both like a shield. At home, Mama began watching me closely. Why are you always coming home late these days? She asked one evening, crossing her arms, blocking the hallway. Work, I said simply, slipping past her before she could say more. Leela, on the other hand, became unusually sweet, offering to braid my hair, asking if I wanted her to heat my food. But I saw the way her eyes flickered when she thought I wasn't looking, how she would step out to take phone calls in low voices, how she would glance at me afterward with forced smiles. I didn't trust her anymore. One night, I heard Mama and Leela arguing in the living room. She's getting bold, Mama, Leela hissed. She's forgetting who fed her. Mama snapped back. We need to remind her. Their voices dropped, and I pressed my ear against the door, straining to catch every word. Just get the papers, Leela. Mama's voice cut through the quiet. And if she fights back, Leela whispered, then she will learn the hard way. I backed away from the door, my breath coming in sharp gasps. They were planning to take Papa's letter. The next day, I went to the lawyer, showing her the letter. She read it carefully, nodding. This will help you stop any illegal sale. She said, you need to stay strong, Ella. I nodded, tears pricking my eyes. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time in a long time, someone was on my side. That evening, I packed a small bag with the few clothes I owned, my notebook and Papa's letter, hiding it under my bed, ready for the day I would leave. As I lay down, I stared at the ceiling, the sounds of Mama's laughter and Leela's music floating through the walls. They won't break me, I promised myself. I will protect what's mine. I will protect myself. And for the first time in a long time, I closed my eyes and fell into a dreamless, peaceful sleep, knowing that tomorrow, I would take my first step toward freedom. The morning I planned to leave. The air felt heavy, thick with something I couldn't name. I dressed quietly, folding Papa's letter and placing it carefully in the pocket inside my bag, along with my notebook and the small money I had managed to hide. My hands trembled as I zipped it shut, my mind screaming that I was doing the right thing. I would leave today, I would go to the lawyer, start the process to protect the house, and find a small place to stay, even if it meant sleeping on a cold floor for a while. I stepped into the living room, bag in hand, ready to walk out. Leela was sitting on the couch. Scrolling through her phone, she looked up, eyes wide, then stood quickly, blocking the doorway. "Where are you going?" she demanded, her eyes darting to my bag. "I have errands," I said, trying to step past her. She grabbed my arm. "With your bag, are you leaving us, Ella?" Her voice was shaking, but her grip was tight. "Let go, Leela," I said calmly, pulling my arm free. "Please, Ella, don't do this," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. "Mama is scared. She thinks you're trying to destroy us." I paused, my heart squeezing, seeing my baby sister crying, the girl I had raised in many ways. "I'm not trying to destroy anyone," I said softly. "I just want to live. Leela, I want something for myself." Her tears spilled, and she hugged me tightly, sobbing into my shoulder. "Please don't leave me, Ella. Let me come with you," she pleaded. Something in me softened. I held her, pressing my cheek against her hair. "Okay," I whispered. "Pack your things, we can go together." Leela ran to her room, and I waited, hope flickering in my chest that maybe we could start over. Away from Mama, away from the darkness in this house. Minutes passed, then an hour. The house was too quiet. "Leela," I called, stepping toward her room. Suddenly, the front door burst open. Two men I didn't recognize stepped in. Their eyes cold, their shoulders wide, blocking any escape. One of them smirked, the same way the man on the street had. "Mama says you have something that belongs to her," the taller one said, stepping forward. My heart dropped. "Leela," I screamed, turning to run. But one of the men grabbed my arm, yanking me back so hard I fell to the floor, my bag sliding across the room. I scrambled for it, but the second man picked it up, unzipping it, pulling out Papa's letter with a satisfied grin. "Found it," he said, handing it to the first man. "No," I screamed, lunging for it. But a sharp slap landed across my face, sending me crashing back to the ground, stars exploding behind my eyes. Through the haze, I saw Leela step out of her room, her eyes dry, her face calm. "I'm sorry, Ella," she said softly. "Mama promised we'd be okay if I helped her." The betrayal cut deeper than the slap. "Leela, how could you?" I choked out. She didn't answer, she didn't have to. The men walked out, Papa's letter in their hands, Leela closing the door quietly behind them. I lay there on the floor, tears streaming down my face, my body aching, my heart shattering into pieces I could never gather again. They had taken everything. And now, they had taken the last piece of Papa I had left. But as I wiped the blood from my lip and sat up, the pain hardened into something sharp inside me. This was not the end. I would fight back. I stayed on the floor for a long time after they left, letting the tears fall, letting the pain burn through me until it was all ashes. Then I stood. My face was swollen, my lip was split, and every part of me felt like it had been crushed. But I gathered my bag, and the few clothes they hadn't touched. I checked under the mattress for the tiny backup money I had hidden. Wrapped in old newspaper, it was still there. They thought they broke me, I thought as I wiped my tears. But they hadn't. I went to the lawyer the next morning, wearing sunglasses to hide my bruises. She took one look at me and stood up, her eyes sharp. "Ella, what happened?" "They took Papa's letter," I whispered, my voice shaking. "They sent people to beat me and take it." She led me to a chair, placing her hand gently on mine. "Do you still have a copy?" she asked. I hesitated, then nodded, reaching into my pocket to pull out a folded photocopy I had made, just in case. She exhaled, relief flooding her face. "We can still fight, Ella. We will file an injunction to stop any sale attempts on the house and press charges for assault. We'll protect your rights." Tears filled my eyes again, but this time they were tears of gratitude. We went to the police that same day, and I made my statement, showing them the bruises, telling them everything. They listened, took notes, and promised to follow up. By evening, I was back at the lawyer's office, signing papers to officially file the case in court. As I held the pen, I felt the weight of everything I had carried, every sacrifice, every betrayal pressing down on me. But as I signed, it lifted. I was done being silent. The court date came faster than I expected. I stood there, my heart pounding in the small, dusty courtroom, Mama on the other side, Leela beside her, both refusing to meet my eyes. Mama's lawyer tried to say I was ungrateful, that I was trying to take everything from my family, that I owed them for raising me. But when my lawyer presented Papa's letter, the copy, and the financial records showing I had been paying for everything in the house for years, the room fell silent. The judge, an elderly man with kind eyes, looked at me. Ella, you have every right to protect what your father left for you, he said. Mama's face twisted with rage, but I didn't look away. Leela finally looked at me, her eyes wet, her lips trembling, but I felt nothing but emptiness where my love for her used to be. The judge banged his gavel, declaring, the house legally belonged to me. Mama and Leela had no right to sell or threaten me. A restraining order was placed to protect me. When we stepped out of the courtroom, Mama screamed, pointing at me, you will regret this, Ella, you're nothing without us. I looked her in the eyes, standing tall. No, Mama, I said quietly, I am nothing because of you, but now I am free. And I turned and walked away, the sun warm on my skin, the chains I had carried all my life breaking with each step I took. The day after the court ruling, I stood in the middle of the living room, looking around the house Papa left for me. It was quiet. No Mama shouting, no Leela's music blasting, just the soft hum of the ceiling fan and the chirping of birds outside the window. For the first time, I wasn't rushing to leave for work at dawn to pay bills that weren't mine or to cover fees that were lies. I wasn't forcing a smile or begging for the barest respect from people who only saw me as a tool. I was alone, and it was peaceful. I spent the day cleaning the house, washing the floors, scrubbing the walls, letting fresh air fill the rooms. As I worked, I found old photos of Papa holding me as a child, his smile soft, his eyes kind. I did it, Papa, I whispered, pressing the photo to my chest. I protected what you left for me. Later that week, I sold the house legally, using the funds to rent a small shop space in another town and a single-room apartment above it. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. On the first morning in my new space, I woke before dawn, but not out of fear or obligation. I woke because I wanted to, because I was excited to start baking. I tied my hair back, washed my face, and stepped into my tiny kitchen, the smell of fresh flour filling the air as I mixed the dough, kneading it with my hands, feeling every press and fold like a prayer. As the bread baked, the warm scent wrapped around me. Comforting and hopeful, I opened the small window, letting the smell drift into the street, where neighbors would soon pass by. When I opened the shop, a little boy stood outside, sniffing the air, his eyes wide. Do you want to try? I asked, holding out a warm bread roll. He took it, biting into it with a grin before running off to show his mother. Soon people began to gather, asking how much the bread cost, complimenting the smell, smiling at me. I smiled back, genuinely, fully. This is mine, I thought. At night, I would sit by the window, looking at the stars, feeling the quiet peace of being in a place where no one could take from me anymore. Sometimes the memories would come back, Mama's harsh words, Leela's betrayal, the nights I cried into my pillow. But now, the memories didn't break me. They reminded me of what I survived, of what I would never allow again. I forgave them in my heart, not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. One morning, as I opened the shop, a woman from the neighborhood said, "Your bread smells like home." I smiled, feeling tears prick my eyes. "Thank you," I said, handing her a fresh loaf. Because for the first time in my life, I was building a home for myself. One loaf, one breath, one sunrise at a time.